All right, finishing up the Denis Villeneuve filmography with Blade Runner 2049. I really wanted to get the 4K on this one, and I'm still bummed out at myself that I didn't just wait. But it was on Black Friday for like $6, $5, or something insane. And I was just like, and then the 4K was like 25 in the time, and I was like, ugh, I wanted the 4K. One day I'll get it. When I get like a legit, brand new, amazing 4K player and 4K TV, like I want top of the line, like my ideal television that I want more than anything is the LG, the OLED. The OLED. That thing is, I think it's by LG, right? Yeah. It's unreal. It's the most insane picture I've ever seen in my life on any TV. I love it so much. So that's like my dream television. As soon as if I get a TV like that and a 4K player to go with it, like a legit 4K player, not just an Xbox, I will be buying stuff like Blade Runner 2049 instantly after. Because to me, this is arguably the best looking movie ever made. The the cinematography in this by Deakins is outrageous, and supposedly a lot of it was caught in camera, so it isn't a ton of CG and color grading and whatnot. So what an incredible looking movie. And then of course, like with any Denis film, it poses these existential questions that, of course, the first movie poses, but this one adds to it. This is a film that doesn't rely on setting up a future film franchise. It doesn't rely on knowing a lot about the original, but also being completely respectful to the original. I know a lot of Blade Runner fans. Hardcore fans that have been fans of Blade Runner since 1982 when it came out. My father and other people. And all of them were like, oh my God, don't make a sequel, don't make a sequel. Because I think the big question that no one ever wanted answered was, is Deckard a replicant? And they thought with this movie, they would explain that. And that would ruin the mystery, and they didn't want that to happen. But not only does this film not answer that question, but it also poses an even deeper existential question when it comes to what makes us human. So in this film, Rachel, we find out, ended up giving birth, which replicants are not supposed to be able to do. And so this, of course, pretty much completely blurs the line between what makes a human and a replicant not human. Like, once people were to find that piece of information out, there would be a war started between the species, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, when I was watching this, not only am I just so blown away by the aesthetics of this entire film, and of course everyone in the movie is, gorgeous to look at, whether it's Ryan Gosling or Jared Leto or Mackenzie Davis, who I have this enormous crush on. And I actually need to watch that Halt and Catch Fire show just because she's in it, and I think she's adorable. She actually looks almost identical to my ex-girlfriend, which is kind of funny. But even Robin Wright is a very attractive older lady. Some people find her very manly, and I can understand that. But you're talking about freaking Buttercup here, and I think she's still super hot in this. And then Ana de Armas, is that how you say her name, from Knives Out? Whoo, doggy! This girl is stunning. Joy Man, the stuff with Joy. Now, of course, there are similarities between the Joy and Kay relationship as there is in the movie Her, Spike Jonze's Her, which is a fantastic film. In fact, right after I watched this, I ordered Her on Blu-ray because it had been a while since I'd seen it, and I was like, man, I need to have that movie in my collection. It's such a fantastic movie. Something that really pisses me off about this movie, though, something that really irritates the fuck out of me, is that this is that film that I feel like everyone's asking for. You know, where's the risky, artistic, blockbuster films? Where's the ones that take a risk and actually make art, actually make something different? It's right here. Blade Runner 2049. It's a sequel to a film from freaking, forever ago. And it has this high budget. It's a gorgeous piece of art. Literally, you could frame any frame in the movie. You could frame, like in a picture frame, any image in this film, and you could hang it on your wall as art. It's just such a gorgeous film. If I had to pick my favorite shot in the movie, I'd have to go with when Kay is standing on the bridge with the broken nose and the 50-foot Joy, what is she, blue? And she leans down and she's putting her finger out, and it's this wide angle shot. That shit right there is perfect. It is art. It is just orgasmic. When people tell me they watch this movie and they're bored, I just don't think they appreciate the film as a visual medium. I just don't think they appreciate the aesthetics, the gorgeous aesthetics of this film. And I know someone like that. The mother of my children does not care about imagery. She does not care. She'll be like, yeah, the movie looks pretty, but I don't give a shit. That doesn't wow her. Special effects, all of that kind of stuff. She's like, I just need to be into the story and the characters, which I'm completely into everything in this movie. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully invested in absolutely everything going on from second one to second end. 100%. Literally 100%. I think this is a masterpiece. I think it's 10 out of 10. Perfect fucking film. But that said, even if that wasn't happening for me personally, the film is so gorgeous to look at. Kind of like a Refn film, like Neon Demon or something. Or Only God Forgives, where it's the movie's so aesthetically pleasing to me that I don't even have to care what's going on in the film. I love Neon Demon. I do. I love everything about it. But I could watch that movie without the characters and the story and any of that stuff, and just like I was watching. For me, it's I guess this is maybe how people feel when they look at paintings that are really cool. Paintings to me I just don't get them. I'll look at them and be like, wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. It's a beautiful painting. But that's about it. That's about as much time as I can spend looking at a painting. It's just wow, that's really cool. Wow. Okay. And that's it. I don't ever need to see that painting again. But in a film, maybe because it's moving pictures and it's constantly changing, that I'm invested, but I can just stare at it for hours. And this is one of those kinds of movies. So anyways, past the aesthetics, because that's just incredible. Oh, and that scene with Kay and Joy when Mackenzie Davis comes over and she's playing the physical embodiment of her, and they sync up, and you can kind of see her face through the hologram, and all that is, what a beautifully sad scene. It's romantic, but it's sad. Because here's Kay, and he's this character who doesn't really understand his place. He thinks that he might be this big, monumental figure in the world, that he might be this child of a replicant. has this girlfriend who isn't real, but what is real? And that is, of course, where the heart of this question lies. Any of these movies pose that question. Ex Machina, Her, Blade Runner 2049, Blade Runner. You can go down the list. We have tons of these kinds of movies that essentially ask, what makes us human? What makes you real? Emotions? A heartbeat? A soul? What is a soul? What gives you the right to say you do and they don't? Because you're made by nature and they were made by you. They were God, like you're their God then. So do they not have a soul through you and your creation of them? Like, do any of us have a soul? I don't know. So when I watch these kinds of movies, my brain, and I just think that this film asks it in the most elegant way of all the movies that I've watched that ask this question. Ex Machina does very well as well. I feel like everything I mentioned does extremely well. That's funny. I actually have Ex Machina sitting right here next to me because I want to rewatch that. But yeah, what makes us human? Like when is Kay really feeling and experiencing love? Does Joy care about him? Because Joy is a program that her kind of tagline for her product is essentially like, I'll tell you what you want to hear. I'm paraphrasing. It's something along those lines. But like, what you want to hear, what you want to see. Now, everyone has the same look. I find that kind of odd. Maybe you can adjust her. When he comes home, she adjusts her outfits and her hairstyle and everything to where she can see he's appreciative of it. So she kind of filters through things to where he like kind of sparks up and she can read that he's interested in that version of her. And don't get me wrong, I feel like this girl's like classically beautiful. Like, I think it would be hard pressed to find a guy or a girl who doesn't find her attractive. I mean, she's kind of across the board stunning. But it is kind of odd to me. So I'd be curious on if you can customize her to look a different way. Like, is there multiple different avatars that you can choose from? Almost like the Twilight Zone episode, the number 12 looks just like you. Where you get to pick from like one of 12 entity like versions of yourself that you get to look like when you turn 17, I want to say, and then guys only have like 5 options. Oh my god, I would love to review that episode one day because I'd love to talk about that and how accurate that depiction of the future was. But anyway, yeah, she is programmed to tell him what he wants to hear. So does she actually care about him? Does she actually have feelings? Has she gone beyond her programming and start to have conscious thought? Because that's what the first Blade Runner kind of addresses, that after a certain amount of time, these replicants start to have their own thought process. They start to think for themselves, and that's why they give them a 4-year lifespan. But then you've got other ones, like Dave Bautista's character in the beginning of this, who he doesn't have, like he was a different model, and he doesn't have a lifespan, like a short lifspan like that. So when he comes after him, like I feel really bad for this guy, and Bautista plays this role super well. But like he comes into his house as a replicant, and he retires, as they call it, this man. And this guy's just out there living his life. He's got a protein farm, and if you watch the prequel shorts that they did, which I highly recommend, especially the Blackout one. I think it's 2033. But 2048 with Dave Bautista's character, it's like 5 minutes long. It's called like No Escape or Nowhere to Run or somewhere along those lines. He's kind of a hero. Like he helps out this little girl and her mom, and he risks himself, and this is how Kay even finds him, because of that report, because people call in, because he exposes himself as superhuman. But he does it because he cares. And the people turn on him. The people he goes to help are like, what a fucking freak. Get away from me, kind of thing. And it's tragic. And it's because of that he loses his life. And when he tells them, like, you've never witnessed a miracle. And, like, the weight of that later. Like, when he finds out what the miracle was, what he experienced, and why that changed him. Why that made him see life in a different way. Maybe we do have, conscious thought. Maybe we do have a soul. Maybe we are human. What makes a human say that they're human? Like, replicants are different. It's not like a lot of these movies where it's all internal mechanisms and very obvious things if you were to break them apart. Like, these guys have skeletons. These guys have veins. These guys are pretty much indistinguishable from human beings. But they're created in a lab. And so, what makes them unhuman? And the way that humans treat them in this movie, calling them skin jobs, throwing these like slurs at them and whatnot, treating them like shit. Like rejecting these. And I find that interesting. Because would I care? Like if something like, I've thought about this before. Like I posed this question on Facebook fairly recently where I had said, do you think you could fall in love with a robot? If that robot was pretty much indistinguishable from a human being. Like if you met, a woman and you found out she was made in a lab, she was a robot, but you couldn't tell the difference and you guys really connected, could you fall in love with that person? And I think the answers mostly came down to a religious ideology, which wasn't surprising to me. But essentially it came down to, well, no, because I would want to love someone who I could be in the afterlife with and they don't have a soul. So I wouldn't be able to be with them beyond this realm. Which, if that's your belief, then that makes sense to me. I mean, I don't believe that stuff, but if you do, that totally makes sense. Like, yeah, if I believed that we get an afterlife and we get to spend it with the one we love and all so on and so forth, then yeah, if I found out I wasn't going to be with them, that would suck. I'm not saying I would do it for sure, but that would give me pause. I would have hesitance because of that, for sure. But since I, pretty much believe that this is it, this is what life we get here on this earth this one time, and because I don't know what is a soul though. I mean, you really have to break down what your interpretation of a soul is, because I do think there is something inherent in us that makes us our own person. And I know that because I have identical twins, and for all intents and purposes, they should be the same person because they have the same DNA, and they were raised pretty much identically, but they're drastically different kids. And for me, there is something that's in them that makes them them, that gives them personality, that gives them a desire to be them and unabashedly, wholeheartedly them. And I guess that would be evidence towards a soul, so to speak. But yeah, so what makes would I be able to date a robot, not knowing, couldn't really tell the difference, and we were crazy into each other? Yes, I think so. I'd get over it. I'd get over it pretty quick. I don't even know if I'd have anything to get over, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, it's such a ridiculous question because we're not even close to that level of technology. But when I watch movies like this and I see replicants, I'm not really sure what Joy's purpose is. Couldn't you just make an actual physical replicant to make your housewife? But I guess that might be problematic. They don't want them on Earth, so they make more of a hologram. But yeah, is she in love with him? Can she experience love? Can Kay experience love? What is love? Do I think they can experience love? I guess that would just depend on if they really were able to go beyond their programming. But what is programming? Isn't our brain a version of a computer? And aren't we programmed and conditioned to believe things on a set of beliefs and structures? So aren't we machines anyways? in reality? I mean, we're organic machines. So where is the line? If they can give birth, and there is really nothing to distinguish between us physically, they're human. I mean, right? I guess it would really come down to your beliefs beyond this realm, maybe. I think that that would essentially, kind of like what I was talking about with love earlier, maybe that's where your allegiance would lie, would be with your religion. Like, no, they're not products of God. But you've got, Neander in this movie, Jared. I'm fucking like blanking. Sorry, Jared fucking. Why can't I think of his goddamn name right now? Jared Leto. Why was I fucking blanking on that? Anyways, because I'm going way too off into this crazy place where I'm thinking about robots and fucking, falling in love with artificial women. Anyways, Jared Leto's character, he does have a god complex in this movie. Now, I do think that this movie is very much set up for a sequel. Absolutely. It leaves things very unfinished. You've got this replicant kind of uprising that's going out and trying to find the proof of replicant birth. And you've got Deckard meeting his daughter, and you've got Kay's fate, which is undecided. We don't know if he dies at the end of this. You've got Neander, his whole story of what he's trying to do with his God complex and making life from life, because he thinks that that's the next step in evolution, that every civilization is built on the backs of slaves. And he thinks that replicants are, need to reproduce themselves because he can't produce them in the quantities that need to go out and take over the galaxy. Like, he's upset with himself because they've only colonized a certain amount of planets and solar systems, and he's just like, this is nothing. Like, I should own the stars. Like, he's that perfect embodiment of it's never enough. It's never enough. Like, could you imagine if you were somebody that was to be able to create a being that was indistinguishable from a human being, and you were able to send them out into space and to colonize multiple planets, and you were thinking, that isn't enough. I haven't done enough. I haven't done anywhere near enough. Could you imagine? But there's people like that. They just have this unquenchable thirst for power and, creation and success. They're so driven that nothing is ever good enough for them. And they let their morality kind of slip into obscurity. Like, there is no line for him. He treats his creations, like, he definitely doesn't seem to think they're human, but he doesn't really seem to think humans are human. Like, he doesn't care about life, human or otherwise. Like, when he has his baby born, he comes in and just slits it open, belly open, like, you're defective. He's so heartless. God, man, every character is just so rich in this movie. I can't get enough of even Kay, whose character in the end doesn't matter, but he so does matter. He finds purpose throughout by finding he has no purpose. And that's just such deep shit. I love this kind of stuff so much. I can watch this kind of stuff all damn day. You've even got Gaff returning in here. Edward James Olmos' character from it. Doesn't feel like his character, though, a little bit. Like, he doesn't have the same kind of accent, vocal sound to him. So something about his character in this does seem a little different, but I don't really care. It's cool to see him. And you don't even get Deckard until like an hour and 45 minutes into the movie. I mean, this is almost a 3-hour film. And the main character from the last movie, that's not far off of like what Han Solo is like in Force Awakens. So Harrison Ford coming back to his properties from before, he's usually very much a secondary character. But, He won't do that with Indiana Jones. Maybe he will with the 5th one if they end up making that. Joshi, Robin Wright's character, what a badass in this movie. Like, she gets stabbed and she's just like kind of grunting through it, like, I'm too tough for this shit. Yeah, great character. All of these characters are fantastic. Joshi even wants Ryan Gosling's ass in this movie. She like comes on to him wanting some, but I mean, it's Ryan Gosling, so I can't really blame her there. Good looking man. But yeah, I mean, I could talk about this movie pretty much all day. This is one of those, it's hard though, because with stuff like this, I'm more bouncing ideas off of myself and talking about it with myself. This is the kind of film you want to do a podcast on. This is the kind of movie that you want to sit down with other people and discuss and go back and forth and pose different questions to each other and get... I feel like this is the kind of movie that you smoke a bunch of weed and talk about. I personally don't do drugs and never have. I've never been really interested in it, but I could see the appeal of doing something and talking about these films, because this is kind of like pot talk. You just sit back and you're just like, whoa, man, have you ever thought about... This is that kind of movie, and I love it. So, what do you guys think about this movie? Were you a fan of this? As a Blade Runner fan, I've talked to a bunch of Blade Runner fans who didn't want this movie to exist, and then after it came out, a lot of them were like, I can't even believe I'm saying this. I think I like this one even better than the original. And this is original Blade Runner was their favorite movie ever, and they didn't even want a sequel to ever exist. And they went and saw it, and they were like, holy shit, I think I might even like this one better. I mean, that's a testament to how incredible Denis is. And I very much look forward to Dune, which I know nothing about. I've never seen the David Lynch film. I've never seen that like mini-series one that they made, or they made a couple of those. I've never read the book or books or whatever it is. I know nothing about Dune at all. So maybe I'll watch the other Dunes before I see Denis. We'll see. I don't know. Anyways, let me know what you think about this movie below. And that was really fun. Denis is the best director working today, in my opinion. There's other people out there like Christopher Nolan and so on and so forth. You could go through and you can argue and whatnot, but his films are just so masterfully done, and he's the most consistent director out there. Because even Quentin Tarantino has Jackie Brown. But then again, Denis has some films that I haven't seen yet that he's not proud of. So I guess maybe I don't know. Quentin Tarantino is amazing as well. Whatever. Anyways, let me know what you think. Adios.